May 1945. The war is almost over, but the killing hasn't stopped. In the Austrian town of Kufstein, snow still sits on the mountains, and smoke drifts from ruined houses. American tanks guard empty streets while exhausted soldiers wait for orders that never come. Captain Jack Lee paces beside his Sherman, besotten Jenny. The war feels finished, yet danger hangs in the air, too quiet, too calm. His men joke softly, trying to forget the endless months of mud and fire. No one expects another fight. Then it happens. Around a narrow corner, a small German Kubelwagen rolls into view. Lee freezes. Machine guns swing toward the target in a flash of reflex. The vehicle halts, engine sputtering, and a white flag flaps from its hood. Two Germans climb out, hands raised, eyes wide. Lee steps closer, weapon drawn. One of them, an officer with dirt on his face and medals still pinned to his chest, speaks quickly in broken English. His name is Major Joseph Gangel. He's not here to surrender. He's here to beg for help. There's a castle in the mountains, Castle Itter. Inside are French politicians, generals, and one famous tennis champion. The SS have surrounded the place, ready to wipe them out before the war ends. Gangel and a few of his men have switched sides, trying to save them, but they can't hold out alone. Lee studies him in silence. A German officer asking an American for rescue. It sounds insane. His crew waits for his answer. Gangel's voice trembles as he says the last words. If we don't go now, they'll all be dead by morning. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then Lee gives a small nod. Start the engines, he says. The Sherman growls to life. Tracks bite into the cobblestones. German and American soldiers climb aboard the same tank. They head toward the mountains, into territory still held by the SS. None of them know it yet, but they're about to fight a battle that history would nearly forget. The day when Germans, Americans, and Frenchmen fought on the same side. Europe is falling apart. Cities lie in smoke. Roads are packed with refugees and soldiers who no longer know who they're fighting for. The war has chewed up everything. Loyalty, hope, even reason. In Germany, orders still echo from bunkers that no longer exist. Some commanders keep fighting because they're afraid to stop. Others throw down their weapons and vanish into the countryside. No one trusts anyone anymore. Among them is Major Joseph Gangel, a career officer from the Wehrmacht. Once proud of his uniform, now ashamed of the badge on his arm. He's seen too much. Towns burned, civilians shot, promises broken. The war he believed in died long before the Führer did. When the SS begins rounding up villagers near the Austrian border, Gangel does something no German officer is supposed to do. He turns his guns on his own side. He hides civilians in barns and churches, warning them before each SS sweep. Every choice he makes could cost him his life, but he keeps going. Some of his men quietly join him, others simply look away. A few miles south in the town of Kufstein, American tanks roll through streets that used to echo with marching boots. The war feels over, but the danger never left. Captain Jack Lee and his crew are restless. Their Sherman, besotten Jenny, sits near the town square like a sleeping giant. Lee isn't the type to wait out the end of a war. He paces beside the tank, helmet off, scanning the empty horizon. He knows how fragile peace can be. One trigger, one misunderstanding, and the killing starts again. For now, the valley is quiet. But beyond those mountains, SS diehards are gathering. Men who refuse to surrender, who'd rather die than give up their cause. Somewhere out there, they're preparing for one last act of vengeance. Neither Gangel nor Lee knows it yet, but their paths are moving toward each other. Two soldiers from opposite sides, both tired of war, both about to face the same enemy. Late afternoon light cuts across the ruined streets of Kufstein. The town is quiet, almost too quiet. American soldiers clean their rifles, swap cigarettes, and wait for an ending that never seems to come. Then an engine hum echoes down the street. A small Kubelwagen turns the corner, German design, unmistakable. Its tires crunch on gravel, a white flag tied to the antenna. Instant reaction, machine guns rise, voices shout warnings, every man on edge again. The German vehicle stops in the open, engine sputtering. Two soldiers climb out with their hands high, nerves written all over their faces. They don't look like fanatics. They look terrified. Captain Jack Lee approaches carefully, hand on his pistol. "Don't move," he snaps. The older German steps forward, metals dull against his dusty uniform. He looks exhausted, like someone who hasn't slept in days. He introduces himself as Major Josef Gangl, once of the Wehrmacht, now part of the Austrian resistance. He speaks quickly, his English rough, but urgent. "There's a castle," he says. Castle Itter, hidden deep in the mountains. Inside are French prisoners, politicians, generals, and national figures. The SS plan to kill them before the Allies arrive. Lee doesn't answer. He just stares. A German officer asking an American tank commander for help. It makes no sense. Gangl reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded paper. An English note, written by one of the French prisoners, smuggled through the resistance. It pleads for rescue, immediately. Lee's crew exchange uneasy glances. They've seen tricks before. Could this be another one? But something about the German feels different. He's not proud. He's desperate. Silence stretches. The wind carries the faint sound of church bells somewhere in the hills. Finally, Lee lowers his weapon. "All right," he says quietly. "Show me the way." Gangl exhales for the first time in minutes. The Americans step back, letting the Germans pass. Orders go out, fuel up, load ammunition. Engines rumble to life. Dust rises as steel tracks begin to turn. Enemies climb into the same convoy, heading toward the mountains and toward one of the strangest battles of the war. Engines roar through the mountain valley. The Sherman Besotten. Jenny leads the way, treads grinding against the narrow alpine road. Behind it, a jeep follows. American soldiers pack tight beside German ones, silent and uneasy. No one quite knows if they're allies or just postponing the next fight. The air smells of fuel and wet earth. Smoke rises in the distance from villages still burning. A church bell rings somewhere far behind them. One last echo of the world they've left. Major Gangl rides in the passenger seat, his hands trembling on his rifle. He's guiding the Americans toward Castle Itter, but even he doesn't know what waits ahead. The SS have scattered, forming pockets of resistance that strike without warning. Every bend in the road could hide an ambush. Lee watches the mountains ahead, steep cliffs on one side, open valley on the other. The road is too tight for turning around. If they're hit, they fight or die where they stop. At the first bridge, the column halts. Half the planks are gone. The river beneath churns with snowmelt, cold and fast. Lee climbs out, studies the structure, and nods once. The Sherman creeps forward, metal groaning, water splashing below. The bridge sways but holds. One by one, the rest follow across. Night begins to fall as they reach the next village. The streets are empty, doors hanging open. A German resistance man waves them through. One of Gangl's contacts. He reports SS patrols nearby, maybe a dozen men, maybe more. Lee listens, then orders full speed ahead. The road twists higher into the mountains. Snow patches line the ditches. Every mile feels heavier, quieter. They pass wrecked vehicles, half-tracks burned black, wheels still smoking. a reminder that someone else tried this route and didn't make it. Inside the tank, the gunner wipes sweat from his forehead despite the cold. "Feels like we're driving straight into hell," he mutters. Lee doesn't answer. He just tightens his grip on the turret rim and stares ahead. The castle is close now, and somewhere beyond those trees, the SS are waiting. High in the Austrian hills, Castle Itter stands cold and gray against the fading sky. For years, it has been a prison for France's most powerful men. Ministers, generals, and statesmen who once led a nation now under occupation. Inside its stone walls, time feels frozen. The prisoners walk the courtyard like ghosts of their former lives. They argue about politics, about who betrayed whom, and who will write history. But deep down, they all know the same truth. The war is ending, and when it does, the SS will come. Among them is Jean Borotra, a tennis champion known across Europe. He once played before cheering crowds in Paris. Now he stares through rusted bars, listening for gunfire in the valley below. The guards have mostly vanished. Those who remain are nervous, torn between duty and survival. Food is running out. Radios go silent. Every sound outside the walls could be salvation or execution. Then, one afternoon, a distant rumble shakes the castle floor. Engines, heavy ones. The prisoners rush to the parapets, straining to see through the mist. Out of the trees, a single Sherman tank appears, its gun barrel rising through the fog. Behind it, a small convoy. A handful of Americans and German soldiers wearing white armbands. For a moment, no one believes what they're seeing. A German major riding with the Americans, a single tank as a rescue force. The French prisoners exchange stunned glances. "Is that it?" one whispers. But disbelief fades quickly into something else. Hope. The gates creak open, metal scraping stone. Captain Jack Lee climbs out of the tank, scanning the courtyard like a man searching for targets. Behind him, Major Gangle steps forward, salutes, and calls out in German that the rescue has arrived. The French crowd around them, voices rising in relief and confusion. Lee offers a quick nod. He knows they don't have time for speeches. The SS are coming, and this castle, their prison, will soon be their battlefield. For the first time in years, the prisoners of Castle Itter are free to fight back. The castle courtyard bursts into motion. Orders echo off the walls. Every man knows what's coming, and that it's only a matter of time. Captain Jack Lee wastes no words. He moves quickly through the courtyard, barking directions. "Set the tank by the gatehouse. Keep the barrel facing the road." The Sherman, besotten Jenny, grinds backward across the cobblestones, its engine growling in the cold air. The gunner rotates the turret, aiming it straight down the narrow path that leads up to the castle. If the SS come, they'll walk right into its fire. Machine guns are hauled to the upper walls. Sandbags are stacked beneath the parapets. Every rifle is checked, every bullet counted. The courtyard smells of oil and sweat and fear. The friendly Germans, Gangle's men, tear strips of dark cloth from old uniforms and tie them around their arms. It's the only way to tell them apart from the SS in the chaos to come. Some of them glance at the Americans uneasily. They were enemies yesterday. Now they'll share the same wall. In the main hall, the French prisoners refuse to hide. Lee orders them to stay below with the women and children, but they shake their heads. "These walls once protected kings," one says. "They can protect us too." Soon, the elderly politicians are dragging crates and handing out ammunition like soldiers. As daylight fades, the castle grows quiet again. The sound of distant thunder rolls through the valley, not from the sky, but from artillery. Somewhere out there, the SS are gathering. Lee stands by the gatehouse, hands on his hips, staring into the dark forest. The only light comes from the glowing tip of a cigarette between his fingers. Beside him, Gangle adjusts his helmet, calm but pale. Neither man speaks. There's nothing left to say. The wind rises through the trees, carrying the faint clatter of engines far below. Everyone hears it. Every man knows what it means. Night falls over Castle Itter. The siege is about to begin. The night drags on, cold and silent. Men try to rest where they can, on stairwells, beside walls, under gun barrels. Every creak in the forest sounds like boots. Every whisper feels like a warning. Just before dawn, the silence breaks. A single shot cracks through the valley. Then another. Muzzle flashes flicker among the trees. The siege has begun. Bullets slam into the outer walls, chipping away centuries of stone. The sound echoes through the courtyard like hammers on steel. Shouts rise from the parapets. "Contact! South side!" The defenders scramble into position. Captain Jack Lee climbs into Besotten Jenny, yelling for his gunner to power up the turret. The tank engine rumbles to life, shaking the ground beneath it. He peers through the periscope, nothing but trees and smoke. Then a glint of movement. He fires. The 76mm cannon roars, the recoil thundering across the courtyard. A section of forest explodes in flame and dirt. For a moment, everything disappears in smoke. Then comes the response. A deep, echoing boom rolls through the hills. An 80mm shell slams into the castle tower, blowing stone into the air. Debris rains down into the courtyard. Men duck for cover as glass shatters and dust fills their lungs. Gangle's men return fire from the ramparts, rifles cracking in rhythm. The Americans on the walls add their own bursts, tracer rounds slicing through the dawn. For the first time in the war, German and American bullets fly in the same direction, toward the SS. The French prisoners, too proud or too stubborn to stay below, join the defense. A few stand behind sandbags, firing pistols and carbines, shouting in broken English. They fight like men who've waited years for this moment. Lee yells over the tank's engine, calling out targets. Gangle moves between positions, calm and deliberate, rallying both sides. Shells keep pounding the walls, but the defenders hold. The rising sun glows faintly through the smoke. The valley is alive with gunfire and echoing thunder. Inside Castle Itter, the unthinkable has happened. Americans and Germans, shoulder to shoulder, fighting as one. The first light of morning filters through shattered windows. Smoke drifts across the courtyard, mixing with the smell of oil and gunpowder. The men are exhausted, deafened, and half blind from dust. But the firing hasn't stopped. In the confusion, a flash of movement on the east wall. One of Gangle's men, a young soldier, barely more than a boy, throws down his rifle and runs. He slips through a side gate and vanishes into the woods. No one stops him. Minutes later, word spreads. He's gone to the SS. He'll tell them how few defenders there are, where the tank sits, where the walls are weak. Lee's stomach turns. He looks at the Germans beside him, suddenly unsure who he can trust. Gangle sees it in his face. He walks over, dust covering his uniform, eyes tired but steady. "You have my word," he says simply. Then he heads back up the stairs to his men. Lee watches him go and forces the thought away. There's no time for doubt now. The SS guns open up again, heavier this time. Shells hammer the castle walls in relentless rhythm. Each hit feels closer than the last. Chunks of stone crash into the courtyard, sending men diving for cover. Inside, the French prisoners huddle in the hallways. Some pray. Others reload weapons with trembling hands. Gangle moves among them, calm and quiet. telling them to stay low, to keep hope. His voice cuts through the panic like steel. Then, a massive explosion rocks the gatehouse. Flames burst from the Sherman's side. Besotten Jenny, the tank that carried them here, burns in orange light, ammunition cooking off with deafening cracks. For a moment, it feels over. The castle shakes. Lee coughs through smoke, shouting for water, for men, for anything. But somehow, the line holds. From the ramparts, rifles flash again. Gangel's men keep firing, refusing to break. Even the French, gray-haired and shaking, stand shoulder to shoulder with the Americans, pulling triggers until their rifles click empty. The SS thought the castle would fall by sunrise. They were wrong. Castle Itter still stands, battered, burning, but unbroken. The battle rages into late morning. The air inside Castle Itter is thick with dust and smoke. Gunfire echoes off the stone walls like rolling thunder. Every window is shattered, every wall scarred. Major Joseph Gangel moves through the corridors, rifle slung over his shoulder. He stops to check each position. Americans, Germans, and French fighting together in the same halls. His men follow him without question. To them, he isn't a German officer anymore. He's just a soldier trying to do what's right. A burst of machine gun fire rips through the courtyard. Screams echo from the upper floor. Gangel runs toward the noise, boots slamming against the stone steps. At the balcony, an elderly French minister has frozen in the open, panic locking his legs. Bullets snap past him, striking the wall behind. Without thinking, Gangel lunges forward, pushes the man aside, and the sniper's round hits him square in the chest. He drops instantly. His body rolls onto the stones, blood spreading across the cracks in the floor. Someone yells his name, but he doesn't move. For a moment, even the gunfire seems to fade. Captain Jack Lee sees it from the gatehouse. He clenches his jaw, rage boiling up through the smoke. "Keep firing," he shouts. The men obey, their shots sharper, faster, angrier. Gangel's sacrifice spreads through the castle like a spark. French, American, and German alike fight harder. Every man knows they're running out of time, but no one dares stop. In the chaos, a new voice cuts through the noise. It's Jean Barotra, the French tennis champion. Tall, athletic, fearless. He volunteers to climb over the wall and find reinforcements. Lee hesitates. The forest beyond is crawling with SS. But there's no other choice. Barotra grabs a coat, muddies his face, and slips through a side door. He scales the wall, pauses for a second on the edge, then leaps into the trees. Bullets crack in the distance as he disappears into the forest. The defenders return to their posts, firing through the smoke. They don't know if Barotra will make it out alive, but they know Gangel didn't die for nothing. The battle grinds on into the afternoon. Every gun barrel is hot, every man coated in dust and sweat. The air inside the courtyard is a haze of smoke and echoes. Each shot they fire could be the last bullet they have left. Captain Jack Lee checks his pistol, 3 rounds. He looks at his men crouched behind crumbling walls. The French prisoners reload what they can find. Even the wounded refuse to leave their posts. The castle smells of smoke, oil, and blood. An eerie silence falls. No shells, no shouting. Only the crackle of fire from the burned-out Sherman. Then, faintly, through the valley, comes a low rumble. At first, it sounds like thunder, then louder, steady, mechanical, growing closer. Engines, heavy ones. Lee freezes, listening. His men glance at him, unsure whether to hope or fear. The sound grows into a roar that shakes the ground. From the tree line below, a Sherman tank bursts into view, treads spitting mud, turret turning toward the castle. Painted across its barrel, the name. The Boche Booster. Behind it, Trucks of American infantry follow close, rifles ready, uniforms caked in dirt. And riding up front beside them, Jean Barotra, grinning beneath a borrowed helmet, wearing an American jacket like he's always belonged there. A shout erupts from the castle walls. Cheers echo through the courtyard. For the first time in days, laughter cuts through the smoke. The SS realize what's coming. Their firing falters, then stops. Men break from the trees, dropping rifles, disappearing into the forest they came from. Others are cut down as the new Sherman opens fire, shells tearing through the hillside. Within minutes, it's over. The forest falls silent again, filled only with the hiss of cooling metal and the faint cries of the wounded. Lee steps out into the open, shoulders heavy, clothes black with soot. He looks toward the valley where the SS once stood, and now lie scattered among the trees. Against every rule of war, the impossible alliance has held. Americans, Germans, and Frenchmen fighting as one and winning. Silence settles over the valley. The echoes of battle fade into the mountains like the end of a storm. For the first time in days, the guns are quiet. Smoke drifts through broken windows and rises from the burned shell of the Sherman, its metal still glowing red in places. Inside the courtyard, the survivors move slowly, stunned by the stillness. The French prisoners stare at the horizon, hardly believing it's over. Some smile weakly. Others simply sit down where they stand, too tired to speak. Near the gatehouse lies Major Joseph Gangl, his body where it fell. The man who once fought for Germany, who turned his back on the Nazis, now rests beneath the same flag he once saluted. A German who died defending his enemies and saving his country's honor in the only way left to him. Captain Jack Lee kneels beside him, removes his helmet, and bows his head. There are no speeches, no grand gestures, just quiet respect between soldiers who found courage in each other when the world had lost its way. Word of the battle spreads quickly. When American command hears what happened, Lee is summoned to headquarters. He doesn't embellish the story. He tells it straight, just as it unfolded. A handful of men, a burned-out tank, and an alliance no one could have imagined. Weeks later, Jack Lee receives the Distinguished Service Cross for valor at Castle Itter. He accepts it with the same calm expression he wore in battle, grateful but distant. Those who fought beside him know the medal belongs to more than one man. Captain Kurt Schrader, the SS officer who defended the French prisoners, instead of executing them, is captured soon after. He faces 2 years in prison, light punishment for a man in his uniform. But he survives. He spends the rest of his life quietly, far from politics and war. The French prisoners return home as heroes, their strange rescue retold in newspapers across Europe. But as the world moves on, the story fades, overshadowed by bigger battles, greater numbers, louder headlines. Today, Castle Itter still stands. Its walls bear the scars of that final fight, bullet holes in stone, blackened marks on old wood, and cracks running through its towers. Tourists pass by, unaware of what happened there. The wind moves through the empty courtyard, carrying faint echoes of gunfire, long gone. For one brief day in May 1945, enemies became brothers. And together, they wrote one of the strangest, most human chapters of the Second World War. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more forgotten moments from history, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these true stories alive. Thank you for watching.